Hey guys, my name's Ben, and this is the trick tip, the long-awaited trick tip for big stand-up slides and big speed checks, brought to you by RipTide Sports and Enraged Panda boards. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is take a look at what we need in order to do a speed check. The first of these is a hill, which is over there. This one has curbs on either side, which is not great for someone who's learning because the board might shoot out and hit the curb, but just for teaching purposes, this one's going to do just fine for me. Also, obviously, you're going to need a board, which I'll talk about my setup in a minute. You're also going to need slide gloves, and preferably knee pads, just in case, and a helmet, which I've got right over there. And once you've got all those things, you're pretty much ready to do a speed check. Alright guys, here is my setup. I'm currently riding an Enraged Panda Zuyu prototype. This is a symmetrical board that is 37.5 inches long and 10 inches wide. It's got some pretty nice concave on it right there. And for trucks, I'm riding 44 calibers, the 10-inch 44 calibers. I've also got ABEC 11 flashbacks 81A, and they're the classic Thane. They only come in the classic Thane. These are great wheels for sliding. They wear kind of quickly, but they very well avoid flat spots if you know what you're doing when you're sliding. If you don't keep the board perpendicular to your direction of travel, you don't let the wheels lock up or anything. I like these wheels a lot for sliding, and that's what I'm going to be using to show you how to do it today. Also, I'm riding RipTide bushings. On almost all my setups, I have a 95A bushing, APS bushing board side, and a 90A bushing road side. Today I have a little bit stiffer setup with a chubby and a barrel, but recently I've been enjoying double barrels because it gives me a little more flexibility, a little more turniness when I'm riding. So that's my setup. For anyone who's wondering, I have 1/8 inch soft risers on there too, just kind of protect the deck a little bit. And now that you guys have the setup, we're going to go ahead and start talking about the steps that are required to complete a speed check. Alright, I'm going to list off all the steps that we're going to go through today, and it's quite a few, but all these things put together are going to make you have a really smooth, stylish, and controllable stand-up slide and or speed check. So the first of these things is foot placement. The second is weight distribution over your feet. The third is compression and decompression. The fourth is how we're actually going to be carving into the slide and kicking out the back foot to start the slide. The next is going to be arms, how we use our arms to manipulate our shoulders to make sure that we don't do a 180-degree stand-up slide. And the very last thing is going to be recompression, which means sinking down again and pulling back the board into your original stance. And all those things together are going to give you a stylish stand-up slide that's going to be applicable to when you're going slow, when you're going fast, if you want to shave off a little speed, or if you just want to do like a massive stand-up slide. This formula is going to help you do that, and I'm going to do my best to show it to you. So, without any further ado, we'll start with foot placement. Alright, real quick, we're going to run over foot placement, which is the easy part. So, I ride goofy, so my front foot is going to be on this side towards the curb for this demonstration. My front foot is going to go right there. Now, there's a couple things that's important about this, but this is largely personal preference. I think it's pretty much necessary to have your heel of both feet hanging over the back of the board, and what that's going to enable you to do is get leverage on this back rail and the wheels to hold out the slide while you're holding it out. So if your foot's just on the top here, you're not going to have any leverage. Off goes your foot while you're stand-up sliding, which is not good. It's painful. I speak from experience. So that's pretty much your front foot. I like to have it up as close near the bolts as the board will allow, because again, having your foot and your weight closer to the trucks is going to give you more leverage over those trucks. And another thing that's important about the front foot, I think, is to have it at an angle. I kind of used to do stand-ups like this with my foot kind of flat, but that really kind of encouraged the board to go perpendicular to my direction of travel. So if I'm coming from this direction, and I've got my foot perpendicular to the direction of travel and I swing it out for a stand-up, it feels better to have it going straight down the hill, which is not good because that's going to flat spot your wheels. So what I recommend that you guys do is cock this foot a little bit to the side. Point your toe forwards just a little bit. And what that'll do is when you swing it out for a stand-up slide, your toe will be facing straight down the hill, but your board's not going to be perpendicular to the direction of travel, which is going to make you do a stand-up that curves this way a little bit, looks all steezy and whatnot, and prevents you from flat spotting your wheels. So that's really important. That's a really easy way to help fix flat spots, is to kind of change up how your foot placement is a little bit. And for the back foot, I'm going to hang my heel off even more, because the back foot is really where I'm going to be kicking it out, and I just like to have more of my heel off back there. You can see that my toe here is farther away from the rail than it is here, and that just is how I like it. I like to have both heels hanging over the back. I think that's necessary. I don't know how necessary it is to have more of your back heel hanging over, but that's just how I do it. And I think this will definitely work for you guys. So again, your front foot is a little more on the board than your back foot, and your toe on your front foot is pointed a little bit forward to help prevent you from getting into that perpendicular stance when you're sliding and flat spotting your wheels. So now that we've got our feet on the board, how much weight should we put on them? Let's find out. Alright guys, now we're going to talk about weight distribution, and what I mean by weight distribution is how much weight you have on your front foot compared to how much weight you have on your back foot. And the short version of this is that you want to weight your front foot more, and that's for a pretty good reason, I think. So if I'm going downhill this way, I'm going to have more weight on this foot up here, and that is so that I will have less weight on here when I'm trying to kick out the board to start the slide. If you have even weight on both feet as you are going to try to slide, you're going to have a lot of problems kicking out the back of your board to initiate the slide, because you're just going to have a bunch of weight on there. It's going to be hard to get enough leverage to overcome the weight that's pushing the wheels into the ground, and it's just going to be hard to start the stand-up slide. So what I prefer to do is bend my knees a little bit, shift my hips a little bit over my front foot, which takes most of the weight off of this back foot and puts most of it over this one. So I'm in a pretty good stance here. And then I'll be carving into it, which we'll talk about in a minute, and I'll be kicking it out, and I'll have most of my weight over my front foot. So that's just going to help you kick it out. It's going to help you stay stable, and I think that's just the best way to do a stand-up slide, is to have more weight on that front foot. It's more stable in almost every case to have more weight over the front of your trucks, over the front trucks when you're skateboarding, just because you steer from the front, kind of like a car steers from the front. And it's just going to keep you more stable in everything you're doing, and it's going to help you kick out this slide a little easier. So now that we know to keep more weight over the front foot, we are going to talk about compression and decompression, which is very important. Alright guys, so this is going to be a short demonstration on compression and decompression, which is really going to tie in with the weight distribution talk we just did, because the point of compression and decompression is to take weight off of the board as we're initiating the slide. So to start with that demonstration, pretend I'm going downhill this way and I'm in my stance. I've got my front foot pointed a little bit forwards like we talked about, got my setup all nice, and now I'm thinking about, okay, I need to carve into the slide and initiate it, right? Before we talk about carving into the slide and kicking out the board, I'm going to talk about compression and decompression. So before you kick out the slide, you're going to want to get nice and low. And this is for a reason I'm about to tell you. You need to get nice and low coming into the slide, and as you are about, it's really as you are kicking out the slide, which the timing is going to be a little tough at first, but as you are kicking out the slide, you're going to want to come up, not straight-legged, because then you're not going to have any balance, but you're going to want to come up from the squatted stance into a knees bent stance. You see most of my weight is still over my front foot, my hips are over my front foot, and what that's done is when I'm de-weighting myself there, when I'm decompressing my body, it's taking weight off of the board, which is making it a lot easier to kick out the trucks, to kick out the wheels. And that's just because there's not as much pressure going on the wheels, and there's not as much friction between the wheels and the ground when I'm decompressing. So I'm lifting weight off, which is making it easier to kick out. And I'll talk about recompression later, which is when you're finishing up the slide, you want to take weight off of the wheels again in the same way to bring your back wheels back. So you're going to compress before the slide, decompress as you're sliding, and when you want to bring that back foot back into your original stance, you're going to compress again because that's going to take weight off the trucks again and allow you to bring your back foot back into your riding stance. That's compression and decompression in a nutshell. There's nothing that tricky about it. It's just kind of hard to implement it. That'll take some practice, but it's really important. So we'll go ahead and move on to kicking out the board for the slide. Alright guys, so this little segment here is going to be how we actually kick out the board and how we initiate the slide, and I'm going to tie in our arms and shoulders with that. I know I talked about that as kind of like a separate thing, but those are both going to be in this segment right here. As well as kind of like we're going to revisit the compression and decompression again. So I'm going to walk us through initiating the slide. Got my feet set up, right? I've also got more weight over the front foot so that it'll be easier to kick out the back. So I'm cruising down the hill, and so I'm thinking I want to do a stand-up slide now. First thing I'm going to do is start to compress a little bit. Then, which is really important, I'm going to carve into this slide, which for me, since I ride goofy, it means I'm probably going to start kind of setting up for the slide in advance by carving towards the left side of the road, like toe side, and then getting low, and then carving back away from the curb and setting up for this slide. So at this point I'm carving this way on my heels and I'm compressed a little bit and I've got more weight on my front foot. Now, it's going to be really important is when you're carving, and this is all timing, this is going to be practice for you guys. You're going to decompress as you're carving, again with more weight over your front foot, and you're going to be able to use your back foot to kick out the tail. And at this point you're going to be sliding, which is going to be fun. You're going to be actually doing this little stand-up slide. So carving, decompressing, and we're sliding. Now you see what my arms are doing right now. This is really important. My right hand, my downhill hand, which for regular riders are going to be their left hand, my right hand is going to stay out in front of me reaching downhill. Now what this is going to do as I'm in my slide is close my shoulders. My shoulders are still facing this way, right? So what that's going to do is keep me from doing 180. If I were to swing my right hand back here, my shoulders are rotating this way, my hips are rotating this way, and I'm going to come all the way around and do a 180, which we don't want. We already did that video. So, carve into it, kick it out, reach downhill with your front hand. So what that's doing is giving me the opportunity for my waist to still kind of face this way, and it'll make it a lot easier to pull that board back into your original stance after doing the stand-up slide. Alright, so what you guys just saw in that last little video clip there was not how to do a stand-up slide. That was a stand-up slide that was completely devoid of any compression or decompression. I carved into it, still had my good foot placement, I still had more weight over my front. I carved and I kicked a little bit, and I slid like this, and then I hooked up like this, and I rolled away in that direction, which is no good. So, I'm just going to run over the whole compression thing again really quick. You guys already know to compress before the slide, decompress as you're sliding, but now, as you're sliding, and you want to wrap it up, you're thinking, okay, I'm starting to go slower, I've shaved off all the speed that I want to shave off, I want to bring this back and roll away smooth. It's going to be really, really important to sink. We're going to sink down and pull that back foot back, because as you're sinking, all of a sudden, all the weight for that split second that you're actually sinking is going to come off your board and allow you to pull it back. So again, the whole thing is you're going to be squatted, stand up slide, bring it back. And not only is that going to add style, but it's just going to make your stand-ups better. It's going to make them more fluid. It's going to help you really bring it back into that original stance so that you roll away clean and you don't hook up going sideways, which is never fun, especially if you're going fast. And it's just going to help your stand-ups overall. So when we put all those things together, we're going to have something that looks a little bit like this. Alright guys, so we're going to wrap things up with a little troubleshooter really quick. Some of you are going to have trouble balancing while you're sliding, especially for longer stand-up slides, and I'm going to go over with you real quick how to kind of angle your body to maintain a good balance while you're doing a stand-up slide. So I'm going to actually get like a side view from you. Alright, so a couple ways that you're not going to have balance is if you're standing with straight legs like this. One of two things is going to happen. You're going to be too far back and you're going to fall on your ass, or you're going to be sitting on your toes too much. You're going to have to run off the front of the board when your wheels hook up. Those are both very bad. So what you're going to actually want to do is bend your knees and kind of have this athletic stance right here. And something that you should be able to notice right now is that my chest is forward, my hips are back, and my knees are bent. And those are three very important things. By having my chest forward, I'm keeping my weight directly over the center of the board, which is keeping me from going too far back or getting pitched off the front. It's keeping me right in a center of balance. It's really good. Another thing is that my hips and my butt are back a little bit. And what that's doing is helping me get more leverage from my heels back here, pushing against the board going downhill. Because if my weight is directly over top of the board, I'm definitely going to get pitched off the front. I still want to be pushing the board from the back rails. So having my butt sticking out a little bit, pushing that way with my heels, but having my chest and my center of gravity still directly over the board with my arm out is going to help me hold out that stand-up slide until I want to hook up. And that should help you guys a lot if you're having trouble bouncing on the board. So now that we've gone through just about everything I can think of, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Alright guys, throughout this video I've been trying to bring up the important points again as I've kind of walked you through the stand-up slide, like shoulders, compressing, decompressing, foot placement, weight distribution, everything. If you have any more questions about what I've talked about, just first of all, just go back through the video and check each section for what I talk about. I have kind of like a little separate video clip for each one of those things. Or just send me a message or leave a comment. I will try my best to help you. I get a lot of comments and a lot of messages about stuff, so I'll do my best to help you. And also, if you have any questions about what I'm riding or the gear or who I'm sponsored by, check out Enraged Panda Board Co. on Facebook, and check out RipTideSports.com, RipTideBushings.com, and RipTide Sports on Facebook as well. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I apologize for taking so long to make it, but hopefully it helps. Hopefully it gets you guys doing some bigger stand-up slides and helps you feel safe and confident doing them at speed. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks very much.